Oh man, welcome everyone. The chat's already hopping to the one and only greatest backpacking show on earth. I had to get things kind of set up on my end here, but hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear. And Joseph Shanks in the chat's already saying, you know, the first time he watched me, he was cooking bacon, and he's been disappointed with every live show that we've done since. But thanks for coming and checking us out, where we talk about backpacking stuff. And oh man, of course there's a backpacking news item, you can tell by the title already, that we are going to be talking about. Thank you to those of you guys who are listening or watching the replay. Like I mentioned before, I know a few of you said that you actually watch this, well, you don't watch it, but you listen to it in the car, because, you know, we have a kind of an extended conversation. So the big I guess headline that we'll start off with today is the Hammock Camping or Hammock Company lawsuit. Now this is going to be a delicate one that I'm going to try to go ahead and dance a fine line where I talk about exactly what's going on. It's in the court system right now. I'm not going to take a definitive side, even though I have my own personal thoughts. I'll let you decide for yourself. But let's go ahead and get to the article we're talking about here. Let me switch over the screens for you guys. Hey man, thanks for the super chat. We got Mark coming in and supporting the super chat. Thanks for doing that. I know Devin from Backcountry Exposure kicked us off, so thanks for doing that, Devin. Let's switch to the news article that we have here. This is from Penn Record, and I'll just go ahead and read it. A fabric manufacturer is suing Ripstop by the Roll LLC, a North Carolina limited liability company, citing alleged false advertising. Dutch Clips LLC, doing business as Dutchware Gear, filed a complaint on November 1st in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania against Ripstop by the Roll LLC, alleging the North Carolina limited liability company misrepresented the nature, characteristics, and qualities of its goods. According to the complaint, the plaintiff alleges that defendants' actions are causing and will continue to cause damage and immediate irreparable harm to plaintiff and to its valuable reputation and goodwill with the consuming public. The plaintiff holds Ripstop by the Roll LLC responsible because the defendant allegedly falsely represented to the public that it offers various fabric having Robic and Hyper D fabrics and meeting specific properties. The plaintiff requests trial by jury and seeks an order directing defendant to immediately cease and desist selling goods in any way represented as having Robic and Hyper D fabrics, and award for damages, interest, and all other relief as the court deems appropriate. It is represented by Justin Tomevi of Barley Snyder in New York. So let's switch back over to the big screen and talk about this a little bit. Oops, I switched to the wrong screen, but here we are. So, thanks a lot for another super chat down there. So yeah, so if you don't understand what all that means, so pretty much what's happening. Wow, man, Rom with all the super chats. What's happening? Thank you so much, guys. What's happening right now is Dutchware Gear, the company that you know of, that they make the really big popular products are the Chameleon Hammock is a really popular one. And then we have, they make the Dutch Clips, and they make the Stingers, which is actually one of my personal favorite pieces of suspension that I use for my tarp, is suing Ripstop by the Roll. And Ripstop by the Roll is well known for providing fabrics for lots of different cottage vendors that we're aware of. So, Dream Hammock is one example, but they provide a lot, especially they're emphasizing a lot of the DIY, which is, they provide the kits and all this sort of stuff. But to get the long and the short of it, Dutchware is suing Ripstop by the Roll because he's alleging that they misrepresent their products. So what this comes down to, there are a couple things. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the Robic fabric, supposedly that Ripstop by the Roll was selling, was not technically a Ripstop, which is, from what I understand, it's a specific thread or something used in the fabric. That's just my understanding. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a fabric expert, but pretty much saying that it wasn't really Ripstop, but Ripstop by the Roll was calling it Ripstop. Now, Ripstop by the Roll, from their perspective, would say that they stopped doing that as soon as they realized their mistake, and it comes down to the Robic fabric is manufactured, I think, by someone over in Korea, so South Korea somewhere. Korea, or I don't remember, one of those Eastern Asian countries. And once they realize they're doing that, you realize that Ripstop by the Roll changed their name of their Robic fabric to, I think, MTN fabric. And so they think that essentially, my perspective, once again, it's the same thing, whether or not they call it Ripstop or Robic. So that's kind of where it stands right now. But the reason this all blew up, and it was pretty disappointing to see actually on Facebook, is where it really exploded because of a post on the Hammock Forums Facebook group. And the reason it became huge is because people are feeling like you have to take sides. Either you're on the Ripstop by the Roll's side, or you're on Dutch's side, and things can get, and just like with anything that you care about, in this case hammock camping and DIY fabrics, people got really upset, and there's a lot of yelling going on even as we even as we speak. And kind of the hammock camping community, people are either one, they're upset with Ripstop by the rule for allegedly misrepresenting what they were selling. Of course, there's a defense for that. Or they're upset that Dutch, first of all, sued, and that they felt like this should be a family thing, and it should be kept in-house, and they could have worked it out. So there's a lot of people talking, and so I know both Dutch and Kyle, who's the CEO of Ripstop by the Rule, have been going somewhat back and forth on Facebook and on this thread in the Hammock Forums Facebook page. But the lawsuit and all the records is I believe publicly available. I haven't read through word for word everything, but it is available, and you can see exactly what's being alleged. And it's just unfortunate. It's gotten pretty vitriolic, it's just, really negative. It's one of those things that you go hiking and backpacking to stay away from, and so maybe you don't even want to hear about this, but it is going on. Another concern that some people have, specifically I know the moderators of that Hammock Forums page, is that the lawsuit will negatively impact the entire community as a whole, because the potential exists, because Ripstop by the Rule is a huge producer for lots of different vendors. If they have to pass their costs on, it's going to be passed on to cottage vendors and in turn to you and I. So I don't know where this is going to go, and who knows if they'll settle out of court or if they will hopefully come to an agreement of some kind. But it's to the point where I actually have snoozed that group for a little while because it got really, really negative. But what do you guys think? I know there are a bunch of you right now in the chat. I don't know exactly what you're thinking or if you are aware of this at all, but it's a big controversy. People are saying things like, it's like seeing your parents fight. And so I know some cottage vendors are taking sides. I don't know if taking sides is the right way to say it, but they're coming out definitely in support of one person or the other. And so they've stayed fairly somewhat neutral. I don't know if it's possible to be neutral in a case like this, but it is what it is right now, unfortunately, and we'll have to see exactly where it goes. But moving on from that into some more positive news, you're free as always to ask questions in the chat as we go. We'll move on from this news story into the last Red River Gorge trip, which was fantastic. So the reason we do this is not to fight about DIY fabrics or aerobic versus Ripstop, but the reason we do this is to get out into nature and enjoy what I believe is God's creation, and just have a good time. It's supposed to be fun, right? If it stops being super fun and enjoyable, then I will probably stop doing it. As should you. But what we're going to talk about in Red River Gorge is, I know some people had questions about the overall loop that I did, and so what we did that first day, and we lucked out really well on Red River Gorge. I saw some people in the chat saying they're going to go there soon. That we started off, actually it kind of was a day hike. I still had my backpack with me, but Adam and Super Josh and I, what we did is we went out to Star Gap Ridge and we checked out some of the features that we hadn't seen, and it was just amazing. And then we met those guys at Hans's Point, which is fantastic because there was no one out there. Every time I've been there so far, it's been something where it's been packed. You have people walking through campsites in order to get to the point, and I had no issues with that. And the second day, the highlight that you saw in the thumbnail, which I hope you enjoyed, that was actually a snapshot of video that was taken by Backpacking with Jason. Excellent channel and a phenomenal guy. He's the one who kind of arranged this. If anyone knows Backpacking with Jason, he's just one of those guys who is really generous, really down to earth, and I really had a blast with him. And so if you haven't checked out the past Red River Gorge video, the backpacking hiking, I think for 3 days is called The Last Video, be sure to go ahead and check that out and check out those guys' channels because you know, just some fantastic people. That was my favorite time in the gorge I've done by far. Questions in the chat. You know, people just back and forth. I won't say all of them out loud. People are talking about how they support Dutch versus support Ripstop by the roll, and how it's been really hard to kind of stay completely neutral from each side. You know, Dream Hammock, which is one of the companies that I really support and I really enjoy Randy and Deanna's work, came out with a positive statement in support of Kyle from Ripstop by the roll. And they are very down-to-earth people. JK is hiking is asking, how did that new pack work for you? And you're probably talking about the Superior Wilderness Designs frameless 30 that I had on in Red River Gorge, and it's not really a new pack. It actually, this is my second year with it, so I guess it's newer than the Arc Hall. Fantastic. Once you see me wearing that pack, you know I'm having a great time, because it most likely is an ultralight base weight. And it was so funny that last day on the hike out, how ridiculously small and light that thing was. And I didn't even have my complete summer loadout. I actually had a 20-degree Enigma quilt. You can actually see all the stuff still behind me there. I'm planning on making a video, which is why I haven't put it away. But I had my Lighten equipment 20 quilt, and I made sure that, you know, if I didn't have my summer quilt, it could have been a lot less. So that was great. So the new pack worked out well, but unfortunately I did rip a hole in that pack. I know, you guys are probably like, that's crazy. What happened on that first day when I was kind of going around some jagged, rocky undercrawl areas, is I had the backpack on and I felt it like just scrape on this jagged rock area, and it did cut a small hole in it. It's repairable. It's just something I'm going to put tenacious tape or Cuban or X-Back repair tape on it on both sides and call it good. It's just a battle scar now. Jogbird is asking me if I've done any non-USA overseas hiking, and the answer to that is no. I hope to this summer. The plan is at some point this summer I'll go back to Barbados, of all places. It's not a known hiking destination in the Caribbean, but I've never hiked or backpacked in Barbados. I probably will do some hiking there, just to kind of show you guys when I come back the countryside and what that looks like, because I'm just excited to share that. I haven't seen it from a hiker's perspective, and I wasn't into hiking when I was living there. Nature Calls Backpacking, talking about the news story that we were talking before, waiting to see how the lawsuit progresses, but these are just a couple of small timers, really. The impact could be huge, or precedents have already been set. Fabrics like these are all over the industry. That's an interesting point. Jared is asking, he has a Dream Hammock package at home. Does this affect their MTN fabric? So, Jared, that MTN fabric was what they used to call aerobic, and it kind of changed. So, I guess your hammock, I guess, is technically a part of this conversation about whether or not it was, you know, prior to it becoming MTN, whether or not it was deceptive advertising or not. Washington Mike is asking, hey Tim, can you recommend a shoe other than Ultra that have a wide toe box? Yes, I would look at the Keen line of shoes. They tend to have a wider toe box as well. Hey Uptrail. And Kevin, yes, I used to live in Barbados. I actually grew up in Barbados. Was not born there, but that is where I grew up. Trail Runner, I guess you can look at Keen shoes that do have a wider toe box, so that's what one of those ones I would look into. Another option is the Saucony brand of shoes. I have socks by Saucony, but Subaru Josh loves his Saucony. I think they're the Peregrine shoes, and they have a wider toe box, like nothing as wide as the Ultra, but I think it's hard to find something that close. Let's see, Fernwog is saying, Tim, your LeConte video inspired me to go there. Did a 3-night, 4-day loop there at LeConte Shelter. The Smokies are sick. Yeah, LeConte was one of my favorite trips. I wish we could have done a bigger loop with it. We actually did LeConte in an overnight, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. We drove practically, 8 hours and hiked up LeConte, and then we stayed at the shelter there and hiked back down and drove back home. And I don't think I would do that again. I would make it definitely part of a bigger loop. Jeff is asking, what new gear am I looking to buy in 2019? Nothing earth-shattering, I think. I've talked about some things before. The big things I'm looking at right now are headlamps. You can see back there, that's actually the NU25 headlamp. I have the Spotlight 160 from Black Diamond that I purchased recently. I think, let me think, in terms of backpacking stuff that I want to get, there's a tarp tent that I'm looking to purchase as well. There's just some things I have to save up for, as well as, what am I'm looking back to? Clothing. Clothing is something that I'm checking out as well, just kind of refreshing, updating if I need to. Cascadias, yep, Peregrines, Montrails. Jared, I have not been to Lake Vesuvius, but asked in the chat. I know a bunch of people have been. So sorry, no suggestions for you there. One thing I wanted to talk about or touch on are backpacking gear lists. I know that's one thing that I have started talking about doing, and I've started specifically giving lighter pack links as much as I can. One of the biggest reasons I've started doing that is because I think that they're a good resource for people, and so you may start seeing a couple of really complete gear lists. So the first one I did was the kind of the most value one for beginners. So I felt like these were items that if I had, the total was about $850, and just a complete gear list for people to look at. Another one I think I have upcoming is I'm definitely going to do an entire budget ones to show that you don't have to spend $850. I think there's definitely a sweet spot that people are willing to spend money on backpacking gear, and then they won't go beyond that. But one of the reasons I bring this up is I actually had some correspondence or an email from someone asking just about tips about lightening your pack. And one thing that was nice is I was able to kind of share that link to that video and have him go through and look at what he was carrying. And so one thing that was really positive is he sent a video back, and I like that his backpacking gear is not something I would have purchased for myself, but there are things that he got and he has accumulated and collected, and it was nice to see that he was thinking really strategically about exactly every single item, even though they weren't, let's say they were from Ozark Trail, or they were from someone else that was kind of a mass-produced product, like a hammock or a tent. But he was really thinking critically about what his stuff weighed, no matter what the cost was. And I think that exercise is a really important one to go through. And you think to yourself, yes, let's say this tent weighs 4 or 5 pounds because you don't have the lightest tent. But that's what you have. And you set it aside and you kind of tally things up. And so that's exactly what he was doing. And I think that's super important to do. Let's see, any meetups this summer? Probably not this summer for me, just because in the summertime, that's when I want to be out backpacking, or in terms of what I'm doing recently, bikepacking. And so in order to stay in shape, one of the things I do is I cycle a lot, but I also try to go bikepacking. I'm going to try to make it at least a yearly thing. And so I do have a bikepacking style trip planned. It's a little different than a backpacking trip, and so I did have to get a GoPro because my filming was not on point when I looked at my last bikepacking trip video. I mean, it was fun and it worked really well, but it just wasn't the best. So I wanted to get an action camera to make sure I captured that better. Someone's asking a serious question: why would there already be a dislike for this stream? Yeah, Ram, I think that's what it is. I think I try my best to stay neutral, but some people just don't like talking about it at all, which is fine. But if you are in the chat and you like these sort of things and this conversation, just go ahead and click a thumbs up. It's all engagement, and so it's all good. So CG is asking, how do you feel about taking a bike trip from Cleveland to Portage Lake bikepacking? I think I'd be interested. Interesting. One thing that I've just started doing, and I've got multiple comments on that bike packing trip video because I started practicing with clip-in pedals. I made the plunge and decided to get shoes and clips and at least try it out. And it was interesting just so far. I've only been riding on it for a week versus the platform pedals, and I found that it gives me a lot more power. It feels a lot more efficient. I'm definitely faster with them, but stopping and getting used to unclipping is definitely a skill I have to learn. I've fallen one time, and that's just when I unclipped my right shoe. And of course, at that point, I'm coming to a stop sign, and you have to lean right so you can put your right foot down, which is unclipped. And I automatically started leaning left, and of course that shoe was clipped in, and I just fell over. And luckily, of course, it was a stop sign, and so some kids asked me if I was okay, and the only thing that was hurt was my pride. But it was it's an experience so far. I went out last time, and I came close to falling one time, and once again at a stop sign. But beyond that, it's been fine. Edmund's asked me, did I see the most recent Jupiter hikes video? I did. I know Ultralight Jerk shared that before I saw it. Ultralight Jerk. I think my friend Kyle sent that to us. Ram is spending a week in the Porkies this summer, the Porcupine Mountains in Michigan. And Ram, you should definitely check out Up Trail 71, who was in the chat. Let's see if he's still there. And I don't know if he's there right now, but you should definitely go ahead and check out his channel, but also reach out to him. He's a cool guy, and he'll give you lots of information about the Porkies. REI carries the Hyperlight now? That's interesting. Let's see. Conversation in the chat. Anyone here use the Gregory Optic 48? And I have not used it, but I know Devin from Backcountry Exposure has, and he likes his. Let's see. Backcountry Adam. Yep. The beginner Gregory Optic 48 is a good beginner backpack. Let's see. Keep going. Gregory talking about REI selling stuff, and so yeah, it's interesting trying out the bike packing. And so in terms of where we camp, Jeff, that's one of the questions about bike. It just depends the area that you're in. And so the one that we have planned in June, they're designated campsites along the trail. There's so many rails to trails systems in across the country. So that's one of the things we'll be checking out. So that's more touring is what I consider that. But in terms of bike packing, our last trip was at AEP Recreation Lands here in Ohio. And to me, that's kind of like this sounds ridiculous, the Dolly Sods of Ohio. In terms of just the look and the feel was very similar to Dolly Sods. And we cycled around there, and and there are campsites that you can kind of connect to fairly easily. Let's see. When buying a backpack for through hiking, and you have to take this with a grain of salt, Mike, because I'm not a through hiker. What liter size range is appropriate without cutting yourself short? It depends on your experience level, I think. But I think 48 is a sweet spot for lots of different people. So when I first started, I had the Exos 38 and the Exos from Osprey, Exos 58, and I wished I had right in the middle, the 48. And I know Frozen from Outdoor Adventures, when he started with the 48 liter. If I were through hiking or doing a through hike, I probably would stay with that sweet spot of the 48. I think the 30 would be great in the summer, and so that's what I feel comfortable doing, but just a little bit more would be better off for me. This is not off topic, Nick. We kind of go with the flow of things, talking about Red River Gorge. Where's the next spot you want to go in Red River Gorge? And that's a great question, because I don't know if you watch the channel or follow it at all, but Cloud Splitter was my last big thing that I said I wanted to see. And of course, there's a ton of stuff to see in Red River Gorge. I think what I want to do next in Red River Gorge is go with Adam, the Sierra Photog, who knows the gorge really, really well. And I kind of want to go on a waterfalling backpacking trip where we hit up multiple waterfalls, and a lot of great ones are off trail. And I kind of want to go on a waterfalling tour just to see what there is, because he always talks about, you know, all these fabulous things off trail or unofficial trails, and I always think to myself, is there really that much in the gorge? And he would know. And so yes, there's a lot to see in Red River Gorge. Robin Hikes is asking a great question. Would you rather spend a night in a one-person tent with the Restless Outdoors, or a night in a hammock with one of the Shill brothers? Oh man, I would have to say, wait, first you got to clarify which Shill brother. Hi from Youngstown, Ohio. Hi Hampton, thanks for checking. I actually have a friend who lives in Boardman, Ohio, and so I'm glad the videos are helpful. Let's see. You are welcome for the sticker, Sam. Oh yeah, I sent that a while ago, but I'm glad you got it and are enjoying it. Let's see. All right, perfect. In terms of what else we can talk about or discuss, I think I had some questions before about what kind of tent I'm looking for, and lots of people, when I talked about the tarp tent, I think I was looking at the rainbow. A lot of people made some other alternative suggestions and asked me, well, why didn't I think about the Aeon lithium, or why didn't I consider the Z-Packs duplex? And while I do have a single wall tent, I find that whenever I've seen the Z-Packs duplex, I know one of the issues that lots of people have is the condensation that sometimes builds up on tents like that, and of course a single wall. But I think it seems like it's even, I want to be tentative saying this, even worse than other single wall tents. Like I have the Rain Shadow 3, and it just vents really well, and I've just seen a lot of people with the duplex, and the venting doesn't seem to be as good as some other tents out there. Of course, it could be pitch location, where they're pitching the tent, as well as how they're pitching and the angle of the pitch. But that's something I want to stay away from, as well as durability. Most of the things that I have when it comes to tents, there's a sweet spot for me to be hit, because I do have 3 kids and they're pretty rough on stuff in general. I want to make sure that I'm getting something that's going to last a long time. And from what I've seen, honestly, I have some Cuban fiber stuff. I mean, I have a stuff sack right here that's Cuban fiber. I have a Cuban fiber rain kilt. I have Cuban fiber stuff. Is when it comes to, like, that's why you don't see me with a Cuban fiber tarp, is because I am concerned about durability over the long term. And so if I'm investing in a product, I want to make sure that it's light, yes, but I also want to make sure it's going to be durable and more resistant to abrasion than Cuban fiber. So that's my 2 cents there. Yeah, Nick is talking about my ultralight gear will take a beating going waterfall hunting. Take tough gear. Yeah, we'll see. Backcountry Exposure is on his own private crusade here. Just kidding, Devin. He's talking about pack ventilation being silly. The Optic does vent well. I think I would have disagreed with you, Devin, 2 years ago or so, but I think I agree with you now. I'm coming around to it, especially when I compare my Osprey Exos or my Z-Packs Arc Hull, both of which vent really, really well. I found that it's not something that I think about a whole lot. It's nice in the summer to feel cool air against your back, but when I compare it to the Superior Wilderness Designs Frameless 30, it's still a fantastic pack. Yeah, my back gets sweaty with it, but I really do not notice as much as I thought it would. Gary's saying the Hammock Restless would produce a video on everything you do wrong. Very true. Tim, when are you shaving the mustache? I bet you could cut a pound off of your worn weight. Very true. I actually need a haircut right now. I don't know if you can tell, and you'll definitely tell in the upcoming videos, my hair is getting ridiculously long. My wife is the one who cuts my hair, and so whenever her schedule allows, I'll try to get it cut. But the mustache stays. It would take like a huge, I don't know what it would take for me to shave my mustache, especially for YouTube. Maybe raising money for a charity or some sort of drive. Maybe at some point I'll do some sort of charity drive, and depending on how high the donations get, maybe I'll shave a mustache. We'll see. Let's see. Hi, Dan from Doylestown, Ohio. I don't know where that is. Let's see, backcountry. I really like the standoff packs like the Levity or the Arc series by Z-Packs. I have not checked out Lightheart gear tents. I have seen them. I know Bryce Newbold has a Lightheart gear tent, which looks great. He has that purple color though. I'm not sure if it comes in anything else. But I checked out also the Lunar Six Moons Designs Lunar Solo that Jason Helmendollar and lots of people have, and it looks good. It looks cool. Let's see. Love my Pro Trail. I still sweat a lot without the venting. So Robin Hike says Andy. So Andy in the hammock or Restless in the tent. I'm gonna take. Oh man, I'm gonna take the tent. And the reason is not because it's Andy. The reason is because in the hammock you're gonna get squeezed together. At least in the tent you can kind of push out a little bit and you're on the ground. All Things Outdoors is saying, if my gear is tough enough for my kids, it will outlast me. Yeah, Andy is definitely in the chat. Okay. All right. I think we're coming on a close here now. We've been going for about half an hour or so. It seems like that's kind of the sweet spot for what we're going to talk about. Any final questions in the chat? I know Andy's saying I'm lame. Hey man, have you been in a hammock with another guy? I don't know. I'm gonna choose a tent with another guy rather than hammock with another guy. But if you have any final questions, be sure to put them in the chat. I think the only thing I haven't mentioned, and this video is not sponsored by anyone at all, and that's one thing I think I forgot to mention at the very beginning. So if you were here when I was talking about the lawsuit before, I don't have any major skin in the game or anyone who's supporting me or sponsoring me in any way to say what I did about a lawsuit. That was all my opinion and just letting you guys know what's going on if you're even aware of it. But it's something that you should definitely think about. But I'm not sponsored by anyone. But what I am going to tell you to do is let you know that I am a Mountain House ambassador. And on my last trip to Red River Gorge, Mountain House was actually the only thing I ate for breakfast and dinner. And you should go check out Mountain House. My code for my coupon is in the description. They just put out a new one for this quarter. And once again, not sponsored, just part of the ambassador program. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. It's always a blast and a fun time. We're definitely going to keep this. The first Thursday of every month seems like a sweet spot we're going to do. But it's been great hanging out. You guys have a fantastic evening and go out and get hiking. I think between now and my next live stream, I should have gone on another trip. So yeah, this is definitely an exciting time because when spring, summer rolls around, you definitely see me get out a lot more than I do in the winter time because it's nice. All right, thanks for watching, guys.